Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Good Lord Almighty, how you doing? Welcome to the show. This is the May 20th, 2024 edition. So I always end on Thursdays by saying, talk to you again on Monday, and God knows what we'll have to. Good God! There's so much news. It's no wonder that people run screaming. I mean, where do I start? We got the Trump trial winding up as we speak, although apparently the judge has said closing arguments for next week. I thought they were going to get to them this week. I'm a little confused about that. But jury's going to get that case next week. Since I last saw you, there were tornadoes. Like, count them. There was that one, then there were 2, 3, 4. There were tornadoes that hit, one uncomfortably close to me. And I, in fact, had just 2 hours earlier crossed the Highland Park Bridge, which in the area that was then hit by that, strongest one of all the tornadoes, the one that hit Highland Park. Good God, there are tornadoes. There's the president of Iran, for God's sakes. Iran, did I say? Going down. He is down. He's dead, along with a foreign minister and some other folks. That's going to be big. And for a country that is currently so involved in so many nefarious kinds of geopolitical hot zones, and at its own in its own country, so much turmoil that this is going to be, I can't even begin to imagine. Not like I follow Iranian politics like really, really astutely, but the guy that died was a son of a bitch, and he brutal. And the odds are the guy who's going to end it. We know it won't be a woman. The guy who's going to fill his spot. I'm not talking on an interim basis because they're going to have an election within 2 months. It could well be worse if one can imagine such a thing. My God. Anyway, there's that. And the International Criminal Court prosecutors have suggested that they will seek warrants for Netanyahu and his defense minister, Gallant, and also warrants for the 3 leaders of Hamas. This is for violation of, it's for war crimes. So hitting at both sides in this unhappy conflict. It's not a done deal yet. They got to go to the judges of the court who will officially issue such warrants for the arrest of these characters. And at this point, I don't see that it's much more than posturing, since Israel is not a party, I believe, to the ICC, does not recognize it. I don't think the United States recognizes the ICC. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Hamas? Give me a break. Hamas is, first of all, not even a nation state. It's a terrorist group, and obviously has no standing at the court and has no need to recognize it or not. So I don't know. I mean, I guess what it means is that Netanyahu would be ill-advised to travel outside of Israel to a country that does support the International Criminal Court, because once he's on that kind of turf, he could be taken. Uh, so there's that, and there's Alito's flag. You can't make this stuff up. I haven't even scratched the surface of everything that's happened between, since Thursday. God. Alito's flag, the unbelievable war of words at the House. What's the committee? The House, whatever. That idiotic committee, the one that does nothing but uh, entertain, does performance art, not legislation, and the women getting into it. Whoa! I mean, any one of these things. Rudy! They finally tracked Rudy down and served him because he's one of those indicted for the attempt to overthrow the election results. And that's the case in Arizona. They couldn't find him. And then they did. They found him in Florida celebrating his 80th birthday. And they served him at his 80th birthday. Which, what the heck? I mean, I don't know. So I'm sure I'm leaving a whole bunch of other things out, but good God, pity me where to start. You know, I'm going to start with something I haven't even brought up yet because I found it so delightful. Don't ask me why, but I made an effort to watch the Preakness on Saturday evening. And I'd also watched the Kentucky Derby, and that was an incredibly exciting finish. And so I was sort of into it. And, no Triple Crown because the Derby winner did not place. But the thing I loved about the Preakness that I have to share with you in case you didn't know, the horse that won, whose name is Seize the Gray, uh, does not have one rich owner like most of the horses. The Sheik of Araby, usually owns some of the horses. I mean, these horses are valuable, and so it takes a lot of money to own one. But Seize the Gray has almost 3,000 owners. So, at the end of a race, when the owner is presented with the trophy, I mean, you could have had like 2,000, God knows how many people standing there trying to hoist it. Because, and I love the idea of this, it's like a crowdsourced horse that wins. And it's part of I don't know, what do you call that? Somebody put out there something called own your, I don't know what it's called. Sorry, don't have a clue. You can buy shares in this horse. You can buy, and there's other horses that you can go online and buy shares. You could buy a share of this winner for, I think, under $200. Consequently, there were people who had put up $250 who were owners of the Preakness winner, which I just love. And then it turned out there were other neat things about him. When I watched the jockeys come out to get on the horses, there was one that I have to admit. I said to myself, "Oh, what a gorgeous young guy." I mean, I just thought he was so handsome, so beautiful. And I thought, I don't know who you are. I'm rooting for you. And damn, if that wasn't the jockey atop Seize the Gray, something I didn't even know. A 25-year-old from Puerto Rico who never raced in a Triple Crown race. This was his first, and he won it. And the beautiful smile he flashed at the finish line was just swoon worthy. And then he turned out to be just a good guy. I mean, I could tell from the interviews, just a good guy. So I love that. And then just the dollop on top. So the horse, first time jockey, a gorgeous jockey, I must say, and this thousands of owners. And the other thing that was so amazing is the trainer of the horse is, I think, just a few months shy of his 90th birthday. And he was there. I mean, he's been racing horses, training race horses for, longer than some of you have been alive. And there he was. He won. So I just loved it. I loved all the, I guess, the narratives, as they say. Uh, there wasn't no horses got hurt. It was just a perfect little few minutes. And I wanted to share that. I also have to share labor union news, and then I'll get to the biggies. But labor union news, disappointing loss in, was it Georgia? The Alabama. I can't help it. I get the Confederate States always so mixed up. To me, they're all the same. Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, who knows? Every once in a while, I do get schooled that there are definite differences between them, or amongst them, I think would be proper. But the United Auto Workers, who had just had a successful organizing effort at one plant in the Confederacy, and lost one in Alabama at a Mercedes-Benz plant. So that was unhappy news. Everybody was talking about the UAW moving in and getting all of these southern plants organized. And it's going to be a little harder than some had hoped. But in other news, a successful organizing effort by Mickey Mouse and Minnie and Goofy and the princesses and all of that, a really heavy duty majority of the people who don the costumes and mingle with the crowds at Disneyland voted to join the Actors Equity Association. And that's a big win. That win was they won 79% of the vote of the cartoon characters, and and there's humans too. I mean, but yeah. When I was at Disney World on a junkety thing for Channel 4, I got to go, behind the scenes and underground and all this kind of stuff, which was amazing. But, to see like Mickey Mouse's head, sitting, on just hanging on a hook, I think. And I mean, I said, oh man, look, decapitated Mickey. And, and the people have no sense of humor there. None. You can't take pictures of that. You cannot take pictures. of that. Mickey Mouse's head is always on his body, and he's real. So I didn't, but it was interesting to see these characters and to see um, how they are treated as actual beings above ground and below ground, the reality. Seriously. All right, where to go? Alito? God. So you got on this Supreme Court, we have two justices that we clearly know supported the insurrection. There's two of them, neither of whom will recuse themselves from hearing the cases. There's two of them. Who, if they, maybe were a little younger and and didn't have even a modicum of, sense of the propriety of a Supreme Court justice being part of a riot. I mean, Thomas and Alito would have loved to be there on January 6th. They were there in their hearts. So the unbelievable thing of Alito, well, it's not unbelievable at all, blaming his wife. Now, it could well be that, yes, Mrs. Alito is the one who put the flag up. However, we know the flag flew for minimally 2 days, maybe 5 or 6. Okay. So even if Alito did not in any way himself put the flag up, and she did, it's not as if he didn't see it. And he has said, these are his words, I had no involvement whatsoever. That's what he told the New York Times. I had no involvement whatsoever. So the question, of course, is why not? It's your house, ain't it? You know about the rules governing justices, that they are not supposed to display political perspectives. They are encouraged, in fact, to avoid even the slightly vague appearance of having an opinion, a bias. Let's put it that way, because opinions they got a bias, uh, especially on an issue which is before the court. In the coming weeks, this court, with two insurrectionists in black robes seated on it, is going to decide, oh God, the degree to which Donald J. Trump, the insurrectionist in chief, can be held accountable for his attempt to subvert the election and the Constitution. If anyone thinks we are not in a place we have not been before, I'll just leave them with that. And I mean, what's funny is that, this blaming your wife thing has had quite a Robert Menendez, who is, in a courtroom today, just like Donald Trump, um, in New York City. Senator Menendez on trial for a very, very heavy duty crime of essentially taking bribes from foreign governments to influence all kinds of stuff. Well, he blamed his wife too. I mean, his lawyer in opening arguments flat out said it was her. So what's with these guys? Is this well, they're tradition? No, but Menendez, he's coming from a different political place. But I guess when you get cornered, what do? You throw your wife under the bus. Eh, I mean, I guess since Adam and Eve, right? What's different? Nothing. But the other thing is, and this was pointed out by one of the members of the New York Times editorial board, for a guy, and back to Alito here, for a guy who earns his paycheck, his paltry paycheck, by the way, which means he has to accept, large gifts like his friend Clarence, because otherwise, I mean, he'd be practically destitute. Uh, but for a guy who earns his pay, evaluating arguments made to him on various issues, it's amazing that he couldn't come up with a case better than the one he's put out there. My wife did it, and I'm powerless. My wife did it, and only she then could take it down. I have no say. I mean, I, the phrase "you can't make it up" is going to be just tattered from overuse any minute, if not already. And somebody suggested something that I've wondered too. What? And if we had a more functional government, this would definitely be something in play. Because Jesse Wegman, who sits on the Times editorial board, said this: the integrity of the court may be beyond repair. But you have to wonder, are these guys trying to get themselves impeached? And it's what I think. If we had a functional government, a functional Congress, an equal body to the court, they could impeach these two. I would suggest they have a stronger case against Thomas than Alito, but good God, it ain't going to happen. It is certainly a more credible impeachment. It would be if they were impeached than what the current Congress, the House, which does the impeaching, uh, is up to. Impeaching cabinet officers. They're after Merrick Garland now, going after the president's son, going after the president, desperate to impeach somebody. And that's the committee that saw the incredible what we called back in Green Bay in the 50s skag fight. Isn't that awful? That's what it was called, a skag fight, when girls fought, when they physically fought. So, yeah, and this was that incredible committee, the House Oversight Committee. And if ever a committee needed oversight, it's this committee. Unfortunately, in this case, the inmates are running the asylum. So the reason they were meeting in the evening, which is rare, but they were meeting in the evening because their regular meeting, in which they sought to look into the impeachment of Merrick Garland, or impeaching him or charging him with contempt. I don't know what. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. because, again, it's just performance art. They couldn't do the meeting when it was originally scheduled during the day because too many members of the House Oversight Committee were in New York City dressed in blue suits and red ties and, showing up for I don't know, the mini me display. And they didn't have enough people. So they rescheduled it for the evening. Now, it's been said that some people who otherwise would not have been able to be there thought, oh, this is going to be fun. This is going to be ugly, I bet. And so it is rumored that some members of the audience had smuggled in alcohol. A flask or two, since it would even be more fun if they had a drink or two in them. So, when I saw it, and I'm assuming you've seen it by now, I mean, obviously, no surprise at the instigator of it, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who fired the first salvo at Democratic Congresswoman Crockett, right? Blanking on her first name. And she made some snide remark, right, about whether or not she could read things properly, given her huge false eyelashes. And that's when it started. AOC got involved. Greene's comment was, I think your fake eyelashes are messing up what you're reading. And actually, it was Jamie Raskin, my favorite, who jumped in the first when that utterance came out of Taylor Greene's mouth. He said, that's beneath you. No, that's beneath even you. Exactly. That's beneath even you, Ms. Greene, he said. And then AOC started demanding that her remarks be taken down. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person? And to which Congresswoman Greene responded, "Aw, are your feelings hurt?" To which AOC responded, "Oh, baby girl, don't even play." And then back and forth. It was, to say the least, unseemly. Now, it was considered more unseemly, I think, by virtue of the fact that these were women, right? Because men, there was a thing earlier in the year where didn't one Republican guy say he got sucker punched by McCarthy or something? It's endless with these Republicans. And this particular committee has seen a lot of play acting, and a number of Democrats, including Crockett, who loves a good fight, mixing it up. But I must say that what Crockett finally said was a great takedown of Greene, and she did it questioning the absolutely feckless chair of the committee, James Comer, who had tried to make some measure of order about what could be allowable under certain rules of the committee. And so Congresswoman Crockett, she of the fake eyelashes, said to the chair, I am just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee starts talking about, let's say, somebody's bleach, blonde, bad built, butch body, would that be okay? Whoa! Let's not even say the alliteration, but a pretty damn right on description of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Bleach blonde, bad built, butch body. Well, she didn't start it, but she finished it off. Now, the most troubling thing, though, about all of this is that only one Republican um, joined the Democrats in attempting to shut up Marjorie Taylor Greene. And you know who it was? Boebert. Lauren Boebert of Colorado, who last we saw was captured on video vaping and I don't know, jerking off her boyfriend in a live theater performance and being escorted out of the auditorium. Boebert actually was offended and said, I just want to apologize to the American people. It is an embarrassment to our body as a whole. Oh, God, no, please. Here we go. You can't make it up. But the fact that it is women that we're fighting is what made this go as viral as it did. Because, first of all, they are a minority in the Congress, and they generally have comported themselves more properly. But somebody pointed out, they said that, it's hard, although in these days not impossible, to imagine, for instance, some congressman jeering at Jim Jordan for his receding hairline, or someone, getting on Chuck Schumer because he has wrinkles or something. That, you know, this kind of scrutiny, and especially this kind of low blow stuff about appearance, uh, is that's where women are particularly free game, free sport, whatever, same. Oh, God, guys, I don't know. I just don't know. The fact that there's remember this ethics code in the court, the Supreme Court, it's voluntary. Something's got to be done with this court if Roberts doesn't have the balls to get control of it. Something's got to get done. I don't know how or what we do, but we are stuck. This country is stuck with this court for a long, long time, in all probability. And these guys are, I mean, anything but blessed with judicial temperament. They don't even play act at it. They have power and they're going to use it for political ends. So one delightful little story I came across that I'd like to share with you if you hadn't seen it was an unusual friendship. Hang on, I just saw, but for some reason, a whole bunch of your emails just kicked in. Why is that? Is that I don't know when you guys are writing these things, but okay, let me see. Here it is. Beth writes, I think this is about Alito. I think it's funny, Beth writes, how many of these judges and politicians have to hide behind their wives. Clarence Thomas, Alito, Menendez, they've all blamed the Eve in their relationships. I have several questions for these men. Are you not from the political side that the man rules the roost? Uh-huh. Did you know these ladies were this batshit crazy when you married them? Is that what attracted you? If your wives have this much power over you, is this why in your rulings you have lashed out and punished women? You can't get to the missus, but you can finally flex your muscle and go after all women's bodies. Beth goes on, my uncle was a federal appeals judge who was appointed by Reagan. My aunt was always so careful not to rock any boats. If she got pulled over for speeding in their small town and the cop knew who she was, she insisted, give me the ticket. She never went to any political functions. Everyone knew there was a line you did not cross. With today's justices, we see there is no longer a line. Maybe one of their wives wiped that line clean. Good one, Beth. Yeah, it really is something. Yeah, are they so well, submissive? Right. That their wives can just run roughshod over them and they in no way have any say about what goes on in their own home. Oh, well, this idea of, appearance is so important that in journalism, it's, beaten into your head that you cannot show opinions. Right. You do not have opinions. You are there as a witness, as a purveyor of fact and information. How quaint all that sounds now. But back in the day, I actually knew one reporter, and I thought this was going so over the top, it was ludicrous. One reporter who never voted because he said, if I voted, I would definitely have a favored candidate, and I don't want that to infect my impartiality. And I thought, that is insane. And nowhere do you give up your right as a citizen if you choose to be a journalist. So he was out of his mind. But that said, I know a lot of journalists who wouldn't be caught dead at any political function showing any point of view. And in fact, here's a quote from a former editor of the Chicago Tribune. He says, When I was an editor at the Trib, I would have been in trouble if my wife put a political bumper sticker on our car. Oh yeah. But a Supreme Court justice's home can fly a flag of insurrection, and he's still allowed to rule on whether the head insurrectionist has immunity? It's mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Oh, God. So, you can't make it up. So I wanted to tell you about this unlikely friendship. Michael Cohen, who has been in the news a lot, you might have noticed. After he gave his testimony a week ago, after they took a break for lunch, he got a text from a friend that just said, "You're doing great," just bucking him up. And he wrote back to the friend, "Thank you, and truly love you." The person who sent him that buck him up, and she'd also sent him before before he took the stand, breathe, relax, tell the truth, you got this. A good friend. And it's Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell, who was singled out by Trump for special misanthropic treatment, misogynistic, treatment. And because Michael Cohen was the guy who carried out many of Trump's more nefarious responsibilities, he was very much part and parcel of the making fun of Rosie O'Donnell for her appearance. I mean, Trump called her everything you can imagine. No reason to revisit that. Trump hated her guts because she had been on The View, the show Barbara Walters founded, and on The View, she had done a withering impersonation of Trump and made fun of him for this, putting himself forward as a successful businessman. Now, this was before he ran for president. And Rosie said of him, he inherited a lot of money. He's been bankrupt so many times. He shorts people. He doesn't pay them. She went on and on and on. And Trump, as Trump does, sued. He sued her. He sued The View. He sued Barbara Walters. And that's when Trump started gunning for Rosie O'Donnell. Went after her as fat, a wacko, on and on and on. And not too long after that, those lawsuits, Rosie left the show. It's unclear if it had anything to do with it. She had become a punchline in the tabloids, and she had no doubt that it was a direct result of Donald Trump. And now that we know how Trump owned the National Enquirer, essentially, through his relationship with Pecker, we can see how Rosie was probably right. And so Cohen would have been involved in a lot of that crap coming at her. And that's what she figured. When she saw Cohen testify before the House committee, she saw him as a human being for the first time and not as her tormentor. And she also said, I'm listening to him talk, and like he was like every guy I went to high school with. It turns out they both grew up 30 miles from each other on Long Island. So there was truth in her saying that he was like every kid I went to high school with. And when he went to prison for Donald Trump, she wrote him a letter. She sat down and wrote him a 6-page letter. And in the letter, she told him, I know that you helped Trump with his campaign to discredit me. But she went on to say she saw in him incredible courage, the courage to turn on this SOB, Donald Trump. And she said she believed in redemption, and she wanted Cohen to know that she forgave him for all that he had done to her through Trump. And she said to him, when someone is in a relationship as unhealthy as yours was with Trump and breaks free, I know it's a very lonely time. Well, inmate A686067054 wrote her back. And he asked for her forgiveness, which she'd already given him, and he asked if she would come and visit him. And she did. And they talked for 6 hours. And a friendship was born. So when he got out, they remained friends. They see each other. And in one of his books, Michael Cohen wrote, the O'Donnell feud had indeed been one of the lowest of Trump's many Twitter lows. My knowledge was firsthand because I had access to his Twitter account and permission to post on his behalf, one of only 2 people with that privilege. I'd been part of the brain trust coming up with juvenile taunts to Rosie, and so I was acutely aware of the childish impulse behind the insults. And when he started his podcast, one of his first guests was Rosie O'Donnell. They really like each other. He has since told her, that letter you wrote me was a kick to the gut and helped me realize how much I helped Trump hurt people. He said, here's a woman I attacked and vilified on behalf of Donald Trump, and she reached out to me out of kindness, and I saw a better way forward. Well, there's something wonderful about that, I think. And so, who knew? Strange way friendships are made. Milton writes, bleach blonde, bad build, bitch bod, whatever is pretty mild compared to what Brooks did to Sumner in 1856, or he almost killed him, right? You're right, Milton. Thank you for. I said things. I mean, yeah, things have been, uh, I guess, worse in Congress in terms of members coming at each other because, I mean, he almost killed him. Margaret says, thank you for that Rosie story. I did not know that. Yeah, it's a great story. It's a great story. I'm glad I was able to share it. Um, oh, where now? Why is my voice getting? I don't know. Um, I mean, I got some stuff here, guys, but I'm looking at the clock and I'm trying to figure out. I am not going to do that. I am not going to do that. Oh, I could do this. This is again something I read yesterday and by Maureen Dowd, who did did a long interview with Bill Maher. And Bill Maher is somebody that I really used to enjoy, and then he lost me. He lost me with his sort of what I consider new agey California, nonsense about. He just seemed too new agey to me, and I did not. I don't think I ever minded the fact that he was willing to talk to all kinds of people. I admired that, given the fact that that's not the way we do things anymore, right? We only talk to those that think exactly like we do, and that's not him. And she pointed out that he's one of the few, he is now one of the few that you can't put in a box. He enrages everybody. And it's true, it's made me start listening to him again more because I don't want to be one of those people who storms out of the room when somebody says things that I don't agree with. Because in 5 minutes, they're going to say something that I think is brilliant. Um, and Dowd says, sometimes Fox News, she says, loves him. And MSNBC is mad at him. And sometimes it's the reverse. And there it is. He's sort of something unusual in this day and age. He thinks for himself and has the courage to say what he thinks. And not a lot of people do. They might, on the sly, when nobody can hear them, think to themselves something that is like something they would never say in their group because it is outside what the group says you're supposed to think. And the fact that we've gotten to this point, almost all of us, just makes me sad. Sad. I don't know. I mean, I appreciate, he lost his job because he said what wasn't to be said. That his first show, what was that called? What was it called? What was that? AB Politically Incorrect. I mean, just the title says it. He was quite willing to be politically incorrect, to say what he felt, not what was considered to be what you're supposed to say. And it was after 9/11. And he said, I think something to the effect that the hijackers that flew those planes into the World Trade Center were sons of bitches. But he said they were also, you have to admit, they were courageous. Well, all hell broke loose. Because you can't say that terrorists are courageous. He lost the show. Lost the show. So, did it make him somebody who watched what he said? The fact that he already lost one show? No. And so, for that reason, I think he is somebody in many ways to emulate now. And he says he really loves doing his stand up in red states, and he does. He says, we got to start, mixing it up a little bit. We have to see each other not as mortal enemies, but merely as roommates from hell. So I'm with them because I have rediscovered my ability to say what I think. And, I think I did hold my fire in the last few years for fear of offending the orthodoxy of the left. And I'm done with that. Totally done with it. And I'm not alone. And he admits that he's angering the left more than he used to. And he says, well, yeah, because they became really weird. I do go after them because they're goofier and more obnoxious. And I'm a comedian. I'm going to go where the ridiculous is. And the left keeps serving it up. Cases in point, he says, he's disgusted with progressive students who cheer on Hamas. That if these progressive students found themselves living under Hamas, it would be freaked because Hamas has no problems with sexual harassment, spousal rape, child marriage, homophobia, domestic violence, killing, rape, all of that. And he goes after these universities, which he should. He says, for, my God, producing these so-called elite universities, God help us, producing American hating hysterics, devoid of knowledge. If they had any knowledge about the Middle East or what apartheid really means, or genocide really means, Would they be on the side of Hamas? Well, so yeah, the left has made itself in many ways laughable to many people, including those of us who have stood alongside them and considered ourselves part of them, and now feel just not only betrayed, but angry, just angry at the unbelievable idiocy and stupidity and willingness to do the same kind of jackbooted, keeping your people in line crapola that the right fascists do. It's all the same. People who think they got the truth and forcing it. It's not a pretty picture. And so I step away from them, pull back closer to the center, and that's where Maher says he is. I'm in the center. And you know what? I think the center is the only place that anything gets done. And so if we're going to be adult, we need to move to the center. I know it's not as exciting as being on either wing. God knows it's not. Because compromise is often ugly. But it's the only way anything ever moves forward in a free country. All right, that's it for me. Susan will not be with us tomorrow, but maybe we'll do it on Wednesday with her because she's got stuff she's got to be doing. And I'll look forward to talking to you tomorrow. And God knows what'll happen between now and then. Oy.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.